Hi everyone, welcome to Learn with me. In this session, I am going to explain about Python classes and objects. I think people generally think OOPS concept is complex in this Python, but here I am to make it easy for you. At the end of this session, you get an idea about classes and objects in Python. Let's dive into this session. What is a class? Simply, let me take a person. The person qualities like name, age, gender, occupation, and walking, running, all this comes under a class, which is nothing but the blueprint of a person is called class. Let me take name, age, gender, occupation is nothing but an attributes, which is also called as a properties and variables in Python. And when it comes to walking, jumping, sleeping, drinking, all this comes under functionality, which is nothing but method in Python. And simply, classes consist of methods and attributes. So for an object, so class is an instance of object, and uh, a class in Python is user defined template for creating objects. A class is nothing but blueprint of an object, and object is nothing but instance of class. And if we want that for every class there is an object is allocated some memory at the back end. So what is the size of an object? Size of an object is equals to variables of the object, variables in the program. And then who will allocate this memory? Let us think. So who is nothing but a constructor. Constructor allocates the memory to the object. And let us know about in detail. So let me create a class. First, to create a class, we have to define a class keyword. So here I defined a class keyword with a name of dog. And next I am defined a sound equals to bark, which is an attribute. Next, let us create an object. An object is an instance of class. It represents a specific implementation of class and holds its own data. Now let's create an object from dog class, right? Then I already created class with a name dog and attributes, which is not also called as a variable. And now I created dog dog object, which is created for the class dog. And syntax of this is nothing but object equals to class parenthesis. And assessing, for anything that we have to assess, we will commonly use dot operator. Here I usually use operator. I use this to assess the class attributes. To assess the attributes of object, we have to use dot operator. Here I used dog1 dot sound. And next, using init function. In Python, class has init function. It automatically initializes objects attributes when object is created. Let us see. Here also created class of name dog and species is equals to canine. That is class attribute, which is also called as a variable. And here I also created a method. Then we already discussed that class must be contain a variable and methods. And here I created a method called init also called as a constructor. First, when we create an object, first the interpreter verify that there is a constructor or not. If it is there is a constructor, then it will directly goes to the constructor and print the statements whatever in the in that program. And the main use of a function is nothing but it initializes automatically, so that there is no need to call the function. Here let us say I also created self. I will discuss about the self parameter later. And here name and age, these are the variables that I defined. And self dot name, self is also an object, so that we know that in class we have to access attributes by object. So I, by using dot operator, I can, here I self dot name is equals to name that I assessed, and this is called as an instant attribute. And we will go to this later in detail. And this is instance or attribute, and this is canon. Species name is nothing but class attribute. Let me go with in detail later. And next, initiate object with init. Let us see that I also created class with a name dog and species class attribute, and method with init constructor. And I also assessed name and age and I created object for the dog class, and I also passes the parameters like buddy and 3, and I assessed name and species. Finally, I get output like buddy and canine. And next, using of self parameter. Self parameter is a reference to the current instance of the class. It allows us to assess the attributes and methods of the class dog. Simply by defaultly self parameter can take object as an argument. So here we have to find that also uh, name, age, along with these object is also an argument passing to the class. This is the simple thing that self parameter can do. So I think it is clear for you. As we know that self is an also a object, so that we can assess the name and age attributes by using self parameter. And next, we also create another method called bark. And here I use it like format string, and cell dot name is barking. So we have to create an object of class, and I also posit the arguments buddy and 3. So I call the bark method, so that birdie is barking. If you see here, um, if you see here, here we mentioned that there is a constructor, right? So in this program, first the interpreter can see that is there any constructor. So that here, if you see here, there is a constructor, so that it automatically executes the program, and then next. Continues with next method. So for the next method we have to call the function. For the before one, no need to call the function, because it is function, it is a constructor that it initializes automatically. So next, enter into the string method. String method in Python allows us to define a custom string representation of an object. By default, when we print an object or convert it to string using string Python, using string parenthesis, Python uses the default implementation, which returns a string like this. And if you see this, here I also initialized class keyword and with a name dog, and I'm initialized method constructor as usually before program. Now here I created another method def string, so that by using this I can change into the string representation simply. And also I used here format string format, and I also created dog one of class dog, and I passed parameters like buddy and 3, and dog 2 of class dog, and parameter like Charlie and 5 I passed, and I printed them. So here you see output like buddy is 3 years old and Charlie is 5 years old. uh, Next concept is classes and instance variables. So in Python, variables defined in a class can be either class variables or instance variables. And understanding the distinction between them is crucial for object-oriented programming that we usually used. So comes to the class variables. These are the variables that are shared across all instances of the class. It is defined at the class level outside any methods. All objects of the class share the same values for class variables unless expli- explicitly overridden in an object. When it comes to instance variables that are unique to each instance of a class, these are defined within init method or other instance method. Each object maintains its own copy of instance variables independent of the object variables. Let me show an example here. I also created a class of dog name, and species is equals to canine. So if you see here, this is class variable, which is nothing but which uh, that is out of the method. So this is called a class variable, which is defined first of the class and which is defined above the method, which is defined in the instant in the between in the method or inside the method or constructor is called instance variable, which is defined outside the method is called class. This is the instance method which is defined inside the constructor, and which is defined outside the constructor is called as a class variable. And here also created objects and for passed parameters. And here if you see here, I assessed a species attribute which is called class variable because it is outside of the method. And I also assessed a name and name of dog 2 of object 2. And here I this is instance variable because which is initialized inside of the method. And next, modify, we can also modify the instance variables. Here I modified like uh, object one of name max, and next I printed the name, and I also modified the class variable species to felon. And if you see here, we can also update the instance variables and class variables. As you see here, we get output like this. So I hope it is clear. And next, coming to, in Python there are three main types of methods that can be defined in a class. Coming to first, instance methods. Most common type of method operations operates on an instance of class. The first parameter is always self, which refers to the current object. And if you see here, uh, which is created for the instance variable is nothing but instance method, simply. And if you see here, I created a class of person and def init, and next I assessed self name instance variable. Next, I also created one more method, that is greet self, and I printed using f format. Hello, my name is self.name, and I created a p called object for a class person. I also passes the alias as a parameter, and I call the function Greek method. The first parameter is always self, reference to the instance. And next, coming to the second method, that is nothing but class method. These operate on the class itself rather than instance. They are marked with the @ class method decorator. We will talk about decorators later, but it's important to mention the decorators. Okay, decorators is nothing but which is used to mention the method of the program and take CLS as the first parameter. Also, we use parameters like CLS for the for the class methods, which is defined for the class variable is nothing but class method. Simply, here I also created a class of name person, and I created a method with a constructor, and I assessed a name, and I increased as down count. And next, I also created another method def get count and return, and next usage print. As you see, class refers to the class, not a specific object. It's not an object, it is refers to the class which is defined for the class method. And next, dive into the static methods. These don't assess the instance or self or class CLS. They are utility functions within the namespace and are marked with @static method. Class math @static method, like if you see, I taken method like add, so that for this we are using static method, not for instance variables, not for class variables. This is utility for the function within the class. And I hope it is clear for you. I discussed about classes, object, how to create a class, how to create an object, about init function, about self parameter, about types of instance, types of methods. And thank you for watching.